Farhad Dastayari and not Fatima Pema, because Fatima Pema's agenda is very clear, right? If I do that, then I actually face some legal challenges, which I believe I got out without so much of a scathe. Then I realized that, see, I tried to get the message out there between a person who is a descendant of a migrant, but they're very pro-Australia in comparison to a descendant of a migrant who is very anti-Australia, but pretended to be pro-Australia. So there are laws and mechanisms in place that Islamists have exploited to the largest extent. And I failed to find the audience to actually see this. Like, I've even gone to, LGBT conferences, and I've told them, even in the most politically correct way, if possible, that, look, would you vote for somebody that pretends to be pro-LGBT but harbors homophobia, harbors transphobia, harbors basically LGBT phobia of any kind? Would you do that? I mean, look at the Lebanese Muslim Association, right? They passed a fatwa that literally says that homosexuals are punished by death. And yet, at the same time, you have leftists who have exploited laws to suppress people like me and to galvanize the LGBT community and others to go out on the streets and protest in favor of terrorist organizations like Hamas. These are the legal challenges that I have faced, and first experience.
So I have the same experiences, with the exception that you can go to their offices and work behind the scenes. You don't have to be public about it, because I understand in the UK you can be jailed for a Facebook post. So, and I'm sure that's coming to Canada very shortly. But there are ways to do it, and there are things that you can do. I help politicians behind the scenes all the time, and only one politician in our last federal election didn't get in because of me, because the Muslim world found out I was backing her and, told everybody that I'm a radical Zionist and blah, 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 and I'm a whatever. So I get it, but there's things behind the scenes you can do. You don't have to be so public about it. You don't have to be so, loud about it. You can walk in and talk to your politicians that you want to support. And if you know that somebody's supporting something falsely, get the proof, get the evidence, and then go to that influencer that's, on the same side and say, hey, this is the proof, this is the evidence. Can we make a series of posts about it? I do that all the time in Canada with some other guys that help me. And when we need to get the word out, believe me, it goes far. But it doesn't come from my page, it comes from their pages. And it goes to 2 million people. So at the end of the day, there are ways to do it. You just have to be a little bit more strategic with all the way. Because if we don't, then we're just sort of leaving our countries to their own devices, which we can all see by now is going, the Islamic way. And like I started to say in the beginning, it's because it became a trend. People realized that, if they post a TikTok dance, it's going to get 400 likes, a couple comments. But if they post Free Palestine and screw the Zionists, they get hundreds of thousands of followers. And so they realized that, hey, this is making me money. It's popular. And they jumped on the bandwagon. So I always think to myself, maybe a little naively, I always think to myself, that day, I want to be a fly on the wall. When that day comes and, some of these people wake up, for whatever reason, it happens. They wake up and they say, what the fuck was I doing? What was I thinking? I just watched a guy who follows me I watched a video from him the other day, and he said it. He said, I was anti-Israel for the last how many years, until I decided one morning, I'm just going to look into it myself. And yes, he's faced a lot of backlash, because that's what they do. When things are popular, they're the popular crowd. It's like school, right? If you go against the popular crowd, what happens? Backlash. But that's okay. Stand your ground. Eventually the backlash ends and they go to somebody else. And who cares what they say, really? But there's ways to do these things where the world will see. One day, God willing, they will see the truth. And it's not going to be all of them. You're not going to convince the Cynthia, that the state of Israel really doesn't do what they're saying it does. Just like you're not going to convince Greta the troll, that Israel's not the demon she tells people it is. And even something as simple as that. She's sailing a little boat with 40 other little boats, and they think they're going into Gaza. If I had it my way, they would get into Gaza. I would let them land in Gaza and let Hamas deal with them, because Hamas is not going to welcome them and give them a tea. They're going to cut their heads off. But at the end of the day, if Greta really wanted to feed them, she'd be sailing 40 container ships and not spending hours doing press conferences, because she's saying they're starving, they need food this minute. Well, why are you wasting 6 hours on the media? Why are you wasting all this interview time? Why'd you pull into that port? Put me on the phone with her. And if you want to feed them, where's your container ships? Because that little boat you're taking, it's got to hold food for the 34, 40 people you've got on board. So where's the food left over for them? So enough with your bullshit. That's what has to happen. Expose, debunk exactly what the name of this room is. And that's how you win. You don't win by screaming. You don't win by swearing. You win by helping politicians, in my opinion. I may be dead wrong, but I'm just saying, for what I've seen in my life, that's what seems to help. Getting our politicians in line. And, although we have a prime minister who, you've all heard of Trudeau. And I would never in my wildest imagination ever say to anybody or think I would ever say, I actually miss Trudeau. That's how bad it is in Canada. We miss Trudeau. So now what do? We go to Pierre Poilievre, who's the leader of the Conservative Party, and we say, what do you need to win? What can we get you? Do I rally every synagogue, every church, every temple, every Buddhist temple? What do you need me to do? Tell me. And I'll get it done, which is what I did.
And then you dragged me around to so many churches.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. We went to so many churches, sat through sermons, this, that, and he was going around to synagogues, churches, events, dinners with different groups of different nationalities. It was the craziest shit.
It's the only way to do it. It's the only way to do it. Because otherwise they're in the dark. They're doing it by themselves with a handful of volunteers, a handful of paid guys. It's not enough. If you want to win a war, you need more than a dozen soldiers. Right? Israel called up 500,000 reserves, and they're calling up more every day. If you want to win a war, you need soldiers. Whether your soldier holds an AR or he holds a sign, there's no two ways about it. Every fucking buddy in this room is a soldier.
But here you don't need politicians. You need only the crappy people. So you have to go to their level to speak.
I 100% agree. But I spend time on Twitter Spaces with a lot of politicians and some very key journalists around the world, and we have some very, very important discussions. But at the end of the day, I like the in-person thing. I like walking into somebody's campaign office or his headquarters, and believe me, they'll welcome you. My cousin will tell you, I've done security for all of them. You name them, U.S., Canada, Israel. Someone, if they say, hi, I'm here to help so-and-so with his campaign, I just want to know what he needs me to do. I would never say, buddy, get out. I would check you out. You're cool, no problem. Sir, somebody here needs to see you.
Yeah, no, I think it's important what Maura was saying too, and it's along the lines what you're saying. So like Clubhouse, it's a great platform, and yeah, you have soldiers that come here, but you have Jews, you have Zionists, you have people that are just in it for the fight and not really in it for the solution. So they're on here saying all kinds of shit, and they don't even know what the fuck they're saying, and that becomes problematic.
If I walk away today, BB, with Alpha messaging me, or like I have Harry as a friend on all my platforms and I consider Harry a friend, then to me that's a win. So whether or not I spoke to a politician, no. I met two great soldiers and we became friends and now we're collaborating. So to me, it's a win. I don't need an ambassador on here, although the imam that I do security for, he likes to come on here with a fake name and just sort of listen to what's going on, and God bless him, he's a good guy. But it's everyday people like us that are going to make the biggest impact and the biggest changes.
Ask him if he remembers Harry when next time you talk to him from Clubhouse. He'll tell you he will.
I will, for sure.
He used to come in our rooms all the time.
Did he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a good guy.
So he has a headquarters here now.
He finally did that transition.
Yeah.
That was the problem, right? Everybody was giving him death threats and this and that. I remember him coming in the rooms, Harry, in Jewish resistance, and it was like, this guy, they were afraid of the truth, so they tried to silence him, and unfortunately they did on Clubhouse.
Well, he just got busier is what it is. He still wants to do it. He still does it. He'll confront them. He'll quote the Quran to them better than they can quote it, of course. And they hate him for it, and they've got hits out on him for it. And that's why he hired me. But at the end of the day, we need people like that in this world. And it's a very useful tool in our arsenal, so in our toolbox. But so is soldiers. So are regular, everyday guys like us that do the work. And, we need to collaborate. We need to ask questions of each other because we don't live in various territories. We don't know what's going on over there. We see what's going on in Australia online, but really we don't feel it. We don't know what's going on. We see one positive march and 10,000 negative ones. So we don't know the climate or the temperature. If you ask me what's going on by me, I can tell you. It's a terrorist haven, and they're importing them on a daily basis, and it's just a matter of time before the shit hits the fan. So, that's here. The UK is also another very big problem, and I can't, for the life of me, think about it coming to fruition because they fought for generations to become Great Britain, and they're just going to hand the keys away like it was never anything. Like nobody that ever died on a battlefield ever mattered. That's how I feel about it. And that's the biggest tragedy of it all. Somebody's great-great-grandfather died on that field, and they're just handing the keys away to these people that have no desire to acclimate or assimilate. They just want to take over, implement Sharia law, and do whatever they do. And if you don't convert to them, you pay them a jizya. You don't pay them a jizya, you're a slave. You go up on the slave auction block. They're already talking about slave markets. Well, we're going to need slave markets because the guys and the women and the children that don't want to join us and don't want to pay a jizya, we're going to have to sell them to other people to deal with them.
It's funny you say that because we had somebody on the app last week that was literally saying that they wanted, they want to take over the Vatican, and then they want to make jihad for all the world, and they want to, whoever doesn't join, they want to charge a jizya, and if they don't want to pay the jizya, then they would get killed. She was on here in this room like last week saying, I don't know who else was in here other than me. I don't know if you were in there at the time, BB, or not, but yeah, it's pretty crazy to hear that. And, multiple people in this religion, in Islam, are saying this type of shit. So it's crazy.
So
it's crazy.
They've always thought it, Gary, but now they're able to say it without getting arrested for it. Back in the day, if they said something like that, MI5, MI6, fucking CSIS, Feds, somebody would show up at their door, wherever they were. Right now, they can say it, and it's no big deal. It's like, yeah. But they have areas now in Michigan, in the UK. I haven't seen them in Canada yet, but I'm sure it's coming, where it's a no-go zone. If you're not them, you don't dare go there because it's under Sharia law. And there's these guys that run around patrolling it at night, and they're the Sharia police. They actually have in New Jersey a car or a series of cars that say Sharia police on them. I think it's I think it's Teaneck maybe or Patterson.
It's Patterson, New Jersey. Yeah,
Patterson.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
I saw it the other day. Yeah.
And in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, the police cars, our second language is French. So everything has English and French writing. But now the police cars in Windsor have Arabic writing because it's a major, Muslim populated place.
I still don't understand that though. I mean, think about it. America's second language is Spanish, right? But I don't see any of the police cars, and I live in a state where there's a lot of Hispanics. I don't see any of the police cars with Spanish writing "Policia," on it. It's crazy to me, man. That's some crazy shit.
Exactly. You never saw "Policia" on cop cars, and even in Canada, you didn't see police in French. But at the end of the day, they're pandering to them. They're pandering to them for two reasons. A, they're afraid of them. B, because there's so many of them, they're going to be their bosses. They know they're going to be their bosses and judges and chief of polices and,
Hey, can you tell them, I don't think you're doxing yourself, but you remember how you held an event after October 7th and like 600-700 people showed up and the police sent security and you told them what it was?
Yeah.
And remember who they sent?
Yeah.
Can you tell them?
Yeah.
You guys won't believe this.
I did an event right after October 7th. I did a security briefing to just teach people how to secure themselves because the community was freaking out. Everybody was scared. Mezuzahs were being ripped down. Uber drivers were coming and DoorDash drivers were coming and people were calling 911. Like it was ridiculous.
Spray painting in front of houses, like swastikas on the ground. So people were asking them to do an event, and a huge amount of people showed up. There was people outside waiting to get in, and somehow, he ended up like securing this crazy location where people could get in. It took a little time, and then all these huge amount of people, and then guess who the police sent?
So I asked the police to send me, the inspectors, right? The guys that wear the white shirts. Who like in the US it would be your sheriff, not the deputy sheriff. So I said, can you send me a couple white shirts so that we can help you keep 911 clear, because they were complaining how 911 was inundated with calls. So I said, help me lower the temperature in the community. And
why would they call 911 though?
Because there was a DoorDash guy on her driveway, or driving by her house, or on her street. Like the stupidest calls. And we would investigate them. And, my guys would go there and we'd say, it's DoorDash.
I was driving, he sent me sometimes, we were driving an hour. I remember you sent me, I went down to downtown Toronto. This one call I remember he sent me to. He's like, yo, can you go help him out? Like, we set up, so I'll tell you before and then he'll tell you at the end what happened with that police thing. So just to frame it. So right away we mobilized a WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group grew so fucking huge. We had to make divisions of groups. Then we put maps and we made sections, and we had 2,000 people in this group. But then there was a problem. You could only have 250 people per group. So then we made community groups. So then you made a community on WhatsApp, and then you made different groups, and then people would they were reporting, some were legit reports, and then some were crazy reports, right? And then some dumbass shit. So we had people going here, going there, this and that, and we had a bunch of volunteers. And then he ended up paying money out of his own pocket to certain people that were protecting daycares and certain places that were getting vile threats. So out of his own pocket, he was paying people to secure, because we couldn't be everywhere. We were driving around, me and him, and we had all these spaces to secure. And I went one night and I drove all the way down Toronto. It was an hour drive for me. I got there and they're like, yeah, there was a guy that drove by and he stopped in front of our house and he was looking very anti-Semitic. I'm like, okay, what did he do? It's just the way he was looking. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, honestly.
It was fucked, right? So, but at the same time, I'm not going to delegitimize her fear, because that day something happened. Remember in the East End resistance,
yeah.
there was something crazy that happened that exact day, and it was 10 minutes from this lady's house, where there was a guy that ran in the middle of the street, and there was two little Jewish boys with pants and kippas on, and this guy ran up and he started punching them, and they were little kids. And so she thought it was this guy. So I'm there wasting my time for 20 minutes, and he's messaging me, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking more than okay. It's so weird. But anyways, we'd have all these false fucking calls. So then we had to make sure that the people that were part of the groups to try and cipher out what's legit and what's not legit. So the temperature was going wild in these groups, and every Jew was becoming part of it. And then we had to filter out who's not a Jew, and then we had to change it to invite only type of thing. And then we would send it, and then people would send it to invites, and we would ask them how do you know him? They're like, oh, he told me he's a Jew. You want to be part of the group? I'm like, no, he's not in. So then we're send your ID. So then they would send their ID, and then we would say, okay, send your ID, and we want you to do a video of you holding your ID and saying this is who you are. So that way, if anything does turn to shit, we got you. You know what I mean? So then we kind of locked it down like that, and the groups are still running till today, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, so he does this huge event because people are freaking out, and they're like, the guy's walking by the house, and he's staring out of the corner of his eye. I know he's gonna attack us, and he's like, fuck. And we can't tell him fuck off, lady, you're nuts. But we're like, calm down. And they're like, don't tell me to calm down. I know an anti-Semite when I see an anti-Semite. They want to fucking kill me. What the fuck is wrong with you? And they would attack you. So you're like, whoa, calm down, right? And they're like, why aren't you taking it serious? And they were losing their shit. So he's like, hold on. Let's do a community event where we can have people ask questions. donations and do all. So I'm trying to paint the picture of like how it became to this thing. So a lot of people came, and he paid for the venue. And mind you, this is all in his own dime, right? So it's like he's doing this for free. So he gets there, and it's amazing at the end what happens, and then how quickly. So like some people were trying to turn against him. And it was like the weirdest shit. But then the majority of the people were like, "Are you guys fucking nuts?" And one guy jumped up and he started yelling. He's like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like, and this guy, he was one of our good. Anyways, I won't even get into it because I didn't peer dox yourself what happened to this guy. But
So at the end of the day,
yeah,
the white shirts. The thing that he's getting at is the white shirts that they sent. So we're doing the panel, right? And I gave a speech. I delivered a speech for about 25 minutes, and I'm just trying to tell people, how to relax and what to identify as a real problem and what isn't, right? Or when to call the police, when to call us, because we would sort of be before the police. They would call us, and then if we thought it was serious, we'd call in law enforcement. But at the end of it, they started questioning the police. And I noticed one of the cops was acting weird, the whole time. He was like not rolling his eyes or anything stupid like that, but he was just sort of tuning out and like in his own little world. So I knew something was up. So when we went downstairs after the event, I had a Q&A. We finished the Q&A and I took a break and I went downstairs with one of the inspectors and I'm like, "So, what do you think?" He's like, "Well, I'm Palestinian, so like," and I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I'm Palestinian." I said, "Why the fuck are you here?" Like, what the fuck?
Could you imagine, Harry? That's what he said.
I said, "What the fuck would possess you to come here?" He's like, "Well, I'm an inspector. I'm not holding any personal feeling." I said, "Buddy, half that fucking room hates your guts. The other half doesn't even want to look at you right now after October 7th. And you have the balls to stay here and try to help people? You're not helping. What you just did is blow it up." And sure enough, somebody overheard, ran upstairs, announced to everybody that the cops that I brought were Palestinian.
No way.
You had all these yentas going nuts, bro.
Remember the guy with one arm?
Oh, yeah.
I saw him the other day. All of a sudden, he's my best friend now. Anyways,
Everybody around me brought the Palestinians.
they were freaking out.
There's 700 people, and like they're freaking. You motherfucker!
No, they weren't blaming me. They were blaming the cops, saying it was a setup.
The cop. They were like,
They were saying it's a setup, that the cops set it up like that so that the Palis could get fucking intel on us. And after a long conversation I had with the cop, I basically came to the conclusion that, he did have clear intentions. He just couldn't, and I don't know that anybody can be in that environment and not put their personal feelings on the table. We weren't calling them names. We weren't saying it. Whenever we talk about them, we say, we'll say radical Islamists or Hamas or, Islamists. We're not going to say the Muslim population because that's just not what you do. But, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's a duck, right? So it was a harsh lesson. And I mean, who knew we had to vet the police? Because, I said, send me the inspectors, send me your top guys. And they did. They sent me their 2 top guys, and their 2 top guys identify as that. So it just goes to show you, the positions that they're placing themselves in like high offices of power. And so Alpha, it comes back to the same conversation again. If we want to accept it and have a guy in Paterson, New Jersey, wearing that terrorist flag on his bulletproof vest, then, we leave it at status quo. But if we don't want that, then somebody has to go to, identify a cop in a high rank in that division that is totally against what's going on, and then have a talk with them. Invite them out for a drink and say, okay, how do we get you into that position?
They don't drink, bro. You forgot.
No. I'm not saying them.
Ah, okay.
Somebody that's going to go against them in the next round of, promotions or elections or whatever it is in your local area, right? But you go and you prop the guy up. I've done it many, many times. And you say, look, there was an inspector here who was an acting inspector, and he wanted to go for full inspector. So at first the community was like, he's anti-Semitic, he's this, he's that. I'm like, let me go talk to him. So I went up and I said, do you mind if we sit down and have a conversation? He's like, no, go ahead. So I started quizzing him and asking him questions. And I said, I'm not asking you to pick sides. I just want to know where your head is at. And if you don't mind, giving me the appropriate answers that, that are the truth. If it's whatever it is, but just give me the truth. So I ended up finding out that he basically is a guy that loves golf, loves freedom, hates oppressors. So basically he doesn't like them. So I didn't come out and say it, but everything was pointing in that direction. And so I said to him, what's your next level? And he said, I'm an acting inspector right now, and I'm trying to become an inspector. I said, but? He said, but I need a lot of community support. I need a lot of letters. I need a lot of this. I need a lot of that. I said, okay, done. Give me a list. So he gave me a list, and I got it done. Every letter, every referral, every recommendation, every politician that he needed to write him a letter, wrote him a letter, and he just became an inspector. So that's how I go about doing things. Maybe, this situation could be unique because I have sort of an in with it, but there could be other ways to do it. And I try to get people to open, their mind to it because it's pretty effective. And now you've got one less radical Islamist who's going to get that position for the next however many years. Right? So to me, that's a win. It may be a small win, but it's a win. And if you add those up over time, they get bigger and bigger. So, we're going after the mayor's race now. We just did a federal election. We lost. So, we're propping up the next federal campaign. And we're going after the mayoral race. And hopefully we put somebody in power who's going to implement proper policies and allow the police to do their job. Because the current, Islamist-loving mayor couldn't care less.
Which city?
Toronto. And she sends memorandums down to the chief of police that says, do not act unless there's violence. Meaning, somebody could say, death to the IDF, death to Israel, death to this, death to that. All Zionists should be dead, and they don't get arrested. But in a normal world, that qualifies as hate speech and threats. But nothing's
inciting violence.
Correct, but nothing's happening because she sends down memorandums saying, hands off, guys. Don't touch anyone unless there's actual violence. So unless someone punches somebody in the head, the police aren't allowed to do anything about it. And it's happening in New York, it's happening in Canada, it's happening in Australia, it's happening in the UK. And the only place where they're starting to turn it around right now is Germany. It's the only place that is starting to turn around, believe it or not, is Germany. The police are just, it's all fair game now. They can do whatever they want. They can literally kick the shit out of anybody and get away with it. No problem. So I'm not suggesting that that's what needs to happen, but the police need to be able to do their job. Their hands are tied and they need to untie them. Because I speak to a lot of members of law enforcement and I work with a lot of them. And some of them are just a waste of space. But a lot of them really would love nothing more than to do their job. And when they see something that, approaches a really bad level, they say to me, man, I wish I could step in and do something about that. And I say to them, like, what are you talking about? Like, you took an oath. You have to do something about it. They're like, no, I'm not allowed. So when you hear that from law enforcement, like, it really makes you think. Because, cops are supposed to be the protectors of society, right? I never thought in our lifetime that, like, our community would have to protect itself. I always did. I always, worked at protecting communities, but I never thought it would be on this scale. I've been doing this for 30 years.
That's what happens when you have to let the lefties take over, the liberals take over.
Agreed.
This is exactly what happens.
Agreed.
They take away the power from the people at the end of the day, really. They take away the protection from the people, and they do what they want. And that's not to protect the people. That's not, what one of their objectives is. So.
Well, they want everyone's guns. They want to control everybody.
That's what I'm saying. You look at the liberal states in the United States, and you see very similar things that are happening in Canada in these liberal states like California, New York, like you mentioned, Illinois, Washington, Oregon. You see all this same type of shit, Colorado. But when you look at like Texas or Florida, stuff like that, if anything happened like that, it gets shut down immediately, and it doesn't happen after that again. So they try to do the same thing at this one university here next to where I live, when they were all protesting at the universities, like the pro-Palestine protest. They shut it down immediately, arrested multiple people, and after that day, it never happened again. But the president of the university allowed it to happen, so they actually brought in police from the city to actually, because each campus has their own police force, but that's nothing like, and they don't have the size or the numbers to shut down a riot, so they have to bring in help from the city police, and because where that university is at, it's actually not in the county technically, so the sheriff's department wouldn't come. It would be actually the city police that would come, and they shut it down quick, and it never happened after that again. So, but you saw it happen multiple times in like MIT, Columbia, UCLA, all these fucking campuses, in these libtard cities, and that's what happened, and yeah, it was a big problem. Not allowing people to go to their classes and stuff is ridiculous because of their religion or ethnicity. It's that shouldn't be happening in America. So, and these lefties are getting away with it, man. It's crazy. And now look at what's happening in New York, which is fucking scary to see that this guy might become the mayor of New York. I think he's probably going to end up winning. Just knowing how New York is, I wouldn't be shocked if he wins. So yeah, it's fucking scary. And Canada is following along very well with a lot of these liberal cities here in America.
Yeah. It's sad. You're right. And I was on campus, a lot of those universities, and I walked through the encampments in my local university. I walked straight through the encampments, and I had security set up for all the Jewish students that wanted to protest it all. And we provided 24/7 security for Jewish kids going to classes.
Wow.
and it's on Al Jazeera. Did it. Anyways, I'm not going to dox myself, but yeah, I basically I still provide security for Jewish kids on campus, and I can honestly say, thank God, since we've been doing it, there hasn't been one attack on a Jewish kid all of last year. Not once since we launched September the 8th. And they asked me, they tried to ban me from every campus in Canada. They tried a lot of shit. None of it successful, but they tried a lot. And the funny thing is, I don't even go to the campuses. I'm across the street from the campus with 100 guys. So the Jewish students have an 800 line. They can call me anytime and say, I'm trying to walk to class, or we've got a Hillel group in a room and they're banging on the walls, and, you know, suddenly some people appear. But
it's crazy that we have to go to this level. Like, this is insane if you think about it.
It is insane. It's totally insane. But I'd rather have it than not have it. Because to not have it was the encampments and Jewish kids not being able to cross specific boundaries because they're Jewish. Now, try to stop a Jewish kid from going to class. Go, I fucking dare you. So, to me, that's the bottom line. And if we have to have it, we have to have it. You know,
we shouldn't. That's fucking ridiculous. I mean, in Canada's not as a free country as America, but in America, like, that should never fucking happen. And you know, I would like to say the same for Canada, but Canada's a fuck country. No offense to your country, but yeah,
no, buddy.
It's fucked.
The anthem says we stand on guard for thee. We don't stand on guard for shit. You know, I told them yesterday, I told somebody high up in the federal government, we need to change our anthem to we stand for nothing. Because Canada really stands for nothing. You know, I have an arsenal of weapons in a bunch of safes. So does my cousin. And half the shit, if not more than half the shit that we own, is illegal now. They put them all on a banned list. And, you know, basically, the only thing you're allowed to use here is, which is fine for me, is a 12-gauge pump, or a bolt-action rifle. But, I mean, listen, a bolt-action with a clip for, 6.5 Creedmoor, that's a pretty big round. So I'm okay with that too. But at the end of the day, they're just trying to take away more and more freedoms. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but in Canada, Terry, if you send me a link right now to something in your region on the news, online, and say, here's the article, I can't post it. It will not post for me. I'm not allowed to share news. So that's why you've seen on my social media that when I'm in an interview or whatever, I'll screenshot the article and then, say, hey, this so-and-so writer did a pretty good write-up. If you want to go read it, Google it. Because I'm not allowed to post the link. It won't show up. So they've already taken that away from us. That was Bill C7, I believe, or C3. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So what are our options? Our options are make sure our community's safe first and foremost, right? As far as I'm concerned, if our community's not safe, we don't have a community. So let's worry about our freedoms and rights once everybody's safe. And then once everybody's safe, well, now it's time to worry about our freedoms and rights. And we also
that should be for our government to worry about. Like, that shouldn't be for us to worry about. If we're living in a society that claims to be free and that claims to be, give us the protections under the Constitution, at least here in America, right, that we deserve as Americans. So for that to happen, it shouldn't even have to happen, right? We should.
You have the Second Amendment. You have
Yes.
First Amendment, and I'll tell you, we have our top federal politicians, as of yesterday, going in the news and saying they want a castle law implemented in this country because you're not allowed to defend yourself if someone breaks into your home. And the top cop in one of the regions went on. There was a 4-year-old who was killed in her home, and then there was a family of 4 that were set on fire, killed.
Oh, God.
They reported it in the media as a home fire, house fire. They didn't say it was a home invasion causing 4 murders. So a couple people are getting very, very antsy. We all are. And when a couple of them would shoot into the wall, right? They just fire a warning shot into the wall. They arrest them. They take away their guns. They arrest them. They charge them. They put them through courts. And so now all the politicians even are saying, hey, this isn't right. You should be able to defend yourself in a home. But the point of the matter is, they're emboldening all of the criminals who 90% of the time are from that region of the world, because they're importing them on student visas or visitor visas. They'll stay here for a month, break into as many homes as they can, steal as many cars as they can, and then fly back with 20 grand in their pocket, which is a lifetime of money for them in their country. So it's getting really bad. And, the pushback is what we're doing every day, trying to get the gun laws, stiffened. But we're not going to do that unless we bring our politicians back.
Oh, yeah, you guys are a long way to go with that.
We do. But I'm willing to fight. And I'm willing to go all the way with it. Look, I took, and forget me. My whole team, all of our crews everywhere, they all did the work. But we took a problem that was in existence. As you ask anybody, anyone that you know in this country, if they had problems with Muslims in universities, and they'll tell you, in 74, we were doing a Hillel thing, and it's gone way back in time. But from last year, from September 8th to today, they can't say anything. So it just goes to show you that things can be done if you really, really crack them down. And decide enough's enough. And I went and I risked my life many times. And the radicals have, I don't know how many hits out on me. I lost count. And, they try to get me banned from every social media platform. They tried to get the government to come down on me. They tried to get the police on me. Anything you could try to stop a person with, they've tried. And so,
You're not doing anything wrong. That's the thing.
No, I'm not. And that's
I don't know what the fuck they're trying to stop.
I'll send you a letter that was signed by 6 of their organizations, campus organizations, against me. And they all said that I'm, basically a killer, a vigilante, a this, a that. So I got called from one of their papers, the editor, and I said, like I always say in interviews, send me your list of questions and I'll respond in writing. So I go down the list, I'm looking at all the questions, and all of them were trying to bait me. I went to the last question, and I said, okay, I'm basically going to ask one question back. Please provide one example of me being a vigilante. If you can do that, I will come to your paper's office and I will give you everything you want, live, tape it, film it, spread it across Al Jazeera for all I give a shit, which they did. So they couldn't because it's false. So they lie. They'll do whatever they can. They'll cheat. They'll steal. It's what's it called? Takia. Alpha would have known better than me. I forgot by now. But basically, they're allowed to lie.
Yeah, I know. It's Takia.
Yeah,
Tequila,
yeah.
So they're allowed to lie, you know, when they're performing their little freaking
Oh, your
jihad.
buddy's here. This is Alan beside you.
Whose buddy?
Your buddy.
My buddy?
You just said Takia. Hey, so
His connection was bad.
You're on both your buddies.
On the tower. It is Takia, and it's also called Hitsma.
Right. Thank you. Yes. So at the end of the day, they can lie, they can cheat, they can steal, they can do everything.
Alan's trying to say hi to you.
Who?
Alan.
You know, I knew it was you. I was just listening to your voice.
Good grief! How you been?
Yeah, good. You know, just everyone was just going through the motions. You know.
Yeah, I know. I've been following. I've been watching. I've been seeing. It's great. That's great.
Good to hear your Good to hear your
Brother, I always ask about you. I'm not going to take everybody's time up saying hi to my old buddy, but I definitely think we should catch up.
100%. I'd love it.
Amazing to hear your voice.
You too, bro.
You know when the
So, at the end of the day, that's the bottom line. You know, I'm just trying to say, like, everybody should try to just do whatever they can. Because everything helps, you know, everything. And there's another perfect example of an amazing guy who I met here. Love him to death. We did a couple things together online. You know, passionate, you know, he does his work. He does it well. You know, he cuts through the bullshit. And super, super smart, super educated, great at fighting this, you know, major uphill battle. But I met him here. And thank God for that. So, like, that's what I'm saying. You guys coming here is a form of fighting. Because you're going to meet people, you're going to collaborate, you're going to, you know, do other things through it. And through my cousin, you know, I'm happy to say, you know, he put me in touch with some great people. And my cousin's good at that. He's good at, you know, spotting talent and really genuine people.
I remember in the beginning, before I got on, he's like, I'm going to bring you to the SAP. I want you to stick around. Harry? And then Alec, before it was a different name, he's like, these are the guys you want to be around. I walked into the room, I'm like, hey, Harry. Harry's like, go fuck yourself. What the fuck is this? That was a bad character. And then, boom, I got along. We knew each other. We became friends. I, you know, met them. And it was just fucking like, yeah, it ended up being good, right?
Wait, why did I tell you to go fuck yourself?
I think I asked something. I interrupted or something. He was like, shut the fuck up. Go fuck yourself. And I'm like, no. Like this. I'm like, I'm not going nowhere. You're like, then you're going to sit on the fucking bottom. And I put my hand back.
I think I met your cousin first before you.
Yeah,
I remember.
you met him first. And then he introduced me to the app. He brought me to the app. And he's like, these are the people you want to be around.
Yeah, that was a while.